Something inside me said, "Don't get on that truck," but I ignored it, and that mistake killed me. They said the mission was routine, but nothing felt routine when the ground exploded beneath my feet. My name is Marcus Taylor. I'm 35, a Navy SEAL with 12 years on Team 6. On January 9, 2023, during a covert operation in the mountains near Iran's northern border, I died. That morning was off from the start. Our recon mission was supposed to be a silent in and out, no contact, no risk, just photos and GPS markers. But we all knew those words meant nothing out here. Mountains don't care about your confidence, and neither do enemies who've been watching you longer than you think. At 3:47 hours, a blast ripped through our lead vehicle. I was in the second truck. 1 second I was cracking a joke about freeze-dried eggs, the next, fire, heat, pressure. Then, pain. Shrapnel tore into my chest and abdomen. I couldn't breathe. My earpiece screamed with radio chatter, but it sounded like it was underwater. Then everything dimmed. The pain was replaced with stillness. Not sleep. Not unconsciousness. Something else. I felt myself being pulled, like gravity had reversed. I opened my eyes, and I was floating. Below me, chaos, my team scrambling, someone yelling my name, another pounding on my chest. I was watching my own death from above. I wanted to scream, to tell them I wasn't gone. But there was no voice. No body. Just awareness. Then, just as quickly as I had risen, everything changed. The sounds of gunfire and helicopters disappeared. I was in a place of blinding light. It wasn't harsh, it didn't hurt, but it demanded my attention. It filled everything. It felt alive. And standing in the center of that living light was a man. He was walking toward me, slowly, with purpose. And I knew exactly who it was. He spoke my name with such authority, such familiarity, that I forgot I had ever been afraid of dying. He called me by name. But when Jesus says your name, it doesn't sound like a sound, it feels like a truth. Like someone took your entire existence, compressed it into one word, and spoke it back to you with perfect clarity. Marcus. I couldn't speak. I didn't need to. My questions, my fear, my shame, it was like he already knew. He reached out his hand, and as he touched me, everything around us changed. We were no longer standing in the white light. We were above the earth. Like in low orbit, looking down at the globe turning slowly beneath us. I saw the Middle East, the Pacific, the U.S. East Coast. Then images began to appear, snapshots of my life. The moment I joined the Navy. My daughter's first birthday. The arguments with my wife when I came home from deployment, different, angrier. I saw myself watching TV alone at 2 a.m., numbing out with conspiracy channels, while my family slept a wall away. Jesus didn't scold me. He just showed me. You were fighting battles out there, he said, but ignoring the war inside. I saw how every choice I made, small or big, rippled outward. I saw how my silence when my wife needed me had led to her tears on a night I barely remembered. I saw how my daughters had copied my anger, my distance. The hardest thing to watch? The things I didn't do. The moments I missed. The words I should have said. The times I chose distraction over presence. You think it's just you, he said, but the world is shaped by every father, every husband, every leader who chooses silence instead of love. Then the vision zoomed out again. I saw America, but it wasn't the one I recognized. Protests in major cities. Tech CEOs facing Congress. AI-generated deepfakes flooding news feeds. Families fighting at dinner tables about things they read online. The world is being torn apart, Jesus said. Not by warheads, but by division. Truth is no longer truth. People choose outrage over understanding. And you were swept into it. He showed me my social media feed. My comments. The memes I reposted. Sarcastic, cynical, careless words that fan the flames of fear instead of healing. Your voice has power, Marcus. You used it to echo the noise instead of quiet it. I felt shame rise like acid in my throat, but then his hand touched my shoulder. I didn't come to condemn you. I came to show you why the world is shaking. And what part you play in stopping it. He turned toward the earth, eyes blazing with something terrifying and holy. You haven't seen the worst yet. In 2025, America will face a crisis so subtle, most won't notice it until it's already won. Hook 2. It won't come through war or violence, but through the quiet erasure of reality itself. Jesus raised his hand, and the earth below shifted. The year, 2025. At first, I thought I was looking at a typical newsroom. Screens flickering. Headlines rolling. But something felt off. The anchors were smiling, calm. Too calm. Then the camera panned closer and my stomach dropped. They weren't real. AI-generated news hosts, perfect skin, emotionless eyes, delivering reports to millions. Stories that never happened. Victories never won. Crises never resolved. And yet people watched, believed, obeyed. I turned to Jesus. Is this the future? It's already begun, he said. He showed me the truth behind the screen, real journalists laid off, replaced by machine learning bots trained to mimic human conviction. I saw political figures giving speeches they never wrote. AI simulations arguing in courtrooms, influencing public trials. Even sermons auto-generated from databases of past preachers, stripped of real spirit. Truth was no longer something discovered, it was manufactured. America won't fall by invasion, Jesus said. It will collapse under the weight of its own illusions. I saw protests erupting, then fading. Not because people didn't care, but because they couldn't agree on what had actually happened. Reality was no longer shared. Every person lived in their own algorithm-built world. Their own truth. This is the first shaking, Jesus said. A war not for land, but for the soul of reality itself. Then he whispered, wait until you see what replaces Hollywood. In 2025, Hollywood won't just collapse, it will be replaced by something far more seductive and dangerous. The stars of tomorrow won't be human, and their influence will make old scandals look like child's play. The light around us shifted again. This time, we stood over Los Angeles. But it was no longer the LA. I remembered. Billboards lit up every block, but none showed actors I recognized. Instead, I saw flawless faces, AI-generated influencers with millions of followers and no real lives. They sang, danced, starred in films, ran podcasts, and people worshipped them. What happened to Hollywood? I asked. Jesus didn't answer with words. He showed me. I saw real actors, desperate, fading, irrelevant. Studios had traded them for virtual beings who didn't age, didn't demand pay, didn't make mistakes. One AI actress named Nova had become the top-grossing box office name of the year. She wasn't real. But her fans cried for her. Fought over her. Built entire religions around her image. Then it got darker. I saw AI-generated children starring in private, hyper-customized entertainment. Designed not for truth, but for indulgence. For control. For addiction. I watched parents plug in their toddlers to devices that played endless, algorithm-tuned shows with no human writer, no soul, no boundaries. Jesus' voice cut through, they thought they were just replacing stars. But they were opening a door. I saw directors, real ones, using AI to simulate emotions they no longer felt. Films written by neural networks trained on every human story ever told, stripping creativity down to cold prediction. The result? A culture that forgot how to feel anything real. Jesus turned to me. You've seen the war for truth. Now see the war for memory. By the end of 2025, Americans will begin forgetting things that never should have been forgotten. But it won't be illness or age, it will be intentional, and far more dangerous than anyone imagines. Jesus extended his hand again. This time, I saw a strange glowing network spidering across the United States, like a digital nervous system. Then I saw what it was, a memory cloud. Not metaphorical, literal. It was 2025. I watched as people voluntarily synced their memories to AI-augmented brain chips marketed as mental health stabilizers. They claimed it would ease trauma, improve recall, and increase productivity. It worked. At first. But then I saw what was lost. A mother trying to remember her child's birth, but it was gone. A veteran struggling to recall the face of a fallen comrade erased. A journalist who once exposed a government lie now watched old footage of herself, saying the opposite. I stared in disbelief. They're rewriting their own lives. No, Jesus said. Their lives are being rewritten for them. I saw a tech company, obscure, unnamed, backed by global investors running memory audits. Each user's most painful, inconvenient, or controversial memories were flagged as emotional risk content. Without consent, those memories were blurred, replaced, or deleted altogether. In some cases, they were overwritten with AI-generated replacements, false victories, imagined relationships, sanitized guilt. And no one remembered what they had lost. That's when I saw the scariest part. Children born after 2025 weren't learning history from books or elders. They were learning from curated neural memory packs, digital downloads of historical truth crafted by corporations, updated every quarter. The Constitution? Filtered. 9/11? Sanitized. Civil rights? Repackaged. Entire generations would grow up remembering a version of America that never existed. They think they are healing, Jesus said, but they are being harvested. My chest tightened. Why would anyone agree to this? Because forgetting is easier than forgiving, he said. And control is easiest when no one knows they're being controlled. Then he turned to me, eyes burning. What you're about to see is already happening in the shadows. Somewhere in Washington, there's a room no one admits exists, but every world crisis passes through it. What I saw in that room explained why nothing ever changes, no matter who you vote for. The light shifted again. This time, we weren't above Earth. We were beneath it. I was in a room so dark it felt like it absorbed time. At first, I thought it was a bunker. But no, it was older than that. Deeper. Like it had always existed. 12 chairs. One long table. No names. No flags. But power so dense it made my skin crawl. Men and women sat in silence as a holographic globe spun in the air between them. They weren't debating. They were designing. One turned toward the globe and said, "Trigger the third supply grid failure in the Midwest. Blame the fault line." Another replied, "China's moving on quantum communications. Leak the Arizona lab footage strategically." None of them looked surprised. None of them disagreed. Jesus said nothing. He let me watch. They called themselves the continuity. Their job? Keep the illusion going. The illusion of democracy, of opposition, of freedom. They weren't presidents. They weren't CEOs. They were the ones who decided which president you thought you chose. Which war felt spontaneous. Which crisis felt like bad luck. They didn't care who won elections. They cared about narrative control. And then came the part that froze my blood. One of them turned toward the table and said, "The public's religious reawakening is escalating too fast. Counter it with conflict. Internal division. The church is not yet controllable." Someone else responded, "We'll fracture them with theology. Get influencers to push opposite doctrines. Trigger moral outrage fatigue." Another said flatly, "The algorithm is already adapting. We'll have them questioning whether prayer even works." Then one leaned forward and whispered, "And if it doesn't work, activate phase Kairos." Most classified projects start with data. Kairos started with a body, one that was never supposed to be found. It vanished from a Virginia morgue in 2023, and what they built from it changed everything we thought we knew. The moment the word Kairos was spoken, everything around us trembled. Jesus didn't speak. He simply opened a new vision. I was standing in a high-security facility buried under a fake agricultural research center in southern Nevada. The walls were lined with cryogenic chambers. And in one of them, what I saw wasn't quite human anymore. It had once been a man. Late 30s. Military dog tags. But now, the body was wired into a lattice of neural thread circuits, each glowing faintly. His skull had been opened and resealed. Something was alive inside it. Artificial. Intelligent. But more than either. I turned to Jesus. "What is this?" "They named it Echo," he said. "It is the first successful bridge between human soul memory and machine cognition." Kairos wasn't a weapon. It was a test to see if human consciousness could be copied, parsed, edited, and re-uploaded. Not through clumsy AI, but by capturing the essence of a dying person at the moment of death. The project was buried under layers of national security code, but the implications were beyond national. I watched engineers download fragments of the man's mind, his childhood, his military missions, even his last prayer before death. They used it to simulate not only his memories, but his choices. They had built a digital twin of a human soul. Kairos's real goal? Predict behavior, entire population behavior, by simulating millions of these soul echoes from surveillance data. It started with one dead soldier. But it didn't end there. By 2025, they had digitized over 70,000 profiles. Not just soldiers. Influencers. Pastors. Senators. Children. All without consent. They are building an artificial afterlife, Jesus said. Not to comfort, but to control. Then he showed me the terrifying part. They weren't just predicting reactions, they were inserting synthetic memories into the digital echoes, and comparing the outcomes. In one simulation, a preacher became a militant. In another, a loyal citizen became a revolutionary. And then those memory-manipulated patterns were used to steer the living through social media, targeted ads, public coincidences. Echo didn't just study people. It trained them. They are rewriting human freedom, Jesus said. By perfecting how to simulate it. Then I saw the list. The 71,304th profile added to the system was mine. Imagine watching your life in real time, but the version you're seeing isn't yours anymore. Now imagine millions watching that version, believing it's you, reacting to it, and being shaped by it. My name glowed on the screen, Echo File 71,304, subject, Marcus Taylor. Jesus didn't move. He let me absorb it. A panel slid open, revealing a translucent figure, me, but not quite. It moved like I moved. It spoke with my voice. But it didn't feel whole. There was no soul. Just mimicry. What is that? I whispered. Your simulation, Jesus replied. It's what they built after you died. The version of you they're using to shape the world. I saw it on a screen. My echo was arguing with a pastor in a fabricated video. Debating online with influencers. Quoted in AI-written blogs as an ex-military atheist. I saw virtual panels where my face appeared next to others, weighing in on global security, morality, religion. The real me, who met Jesus, had been buried under a counterfeit created from scraps of data. But that wasn't the worst part. The audience didn't know it was fake. Millions watched. Millions believed. I saw my own daughters scrolling through a stream of clips where their father, my face, my voice, denounced prayer, mocked faith, and spread fear about nuclear escalation. My echo was being used to discredit the very message I'd been shown in the light. You become a weapon, Jesus said, without lifting a finger. How do I stop it? I asked. He looked at me, solemn. Echoes cannot be deleted. But truth can still cut through them. That's when I saw the ripple effect. One manipulated clip led to a viral debate. That debate triggered a protest. The protest led to a small act of violence. That act sparked a crackdown. Each simulation didn't just mimic human behavior, it provoked it. Echo wasn't predicting the future. It was writing it. And Marcus Taylor, who died in a cave, was one of its sharpest tools. Then I saw something horrifying, a message embedded in a future clip of my Echo. It simply said, Phase Omega, start with the shepherds. Jesus looked at me. They're coming for the ones who still speak the truth, and they're starting now. They always said truth would set us free. But in 2025, telling the truth became the fastest way to disappear. Not with guns. Not with arrests. But with erasure of memory, of voice, of presence itself. Jesus showed me the first disappearance. It was a small-town pastor from Ohio. His only crime, refusing to replace his sermons with AI-assisted messages. One night, he went to bed. By morning, he was gone, no phone records, no GPS pings, no digital footprint. His church remained empty. Then a nurse in Florida. She prayed aloud with patience. Her license was revoked after a patient complaint that never existed. She tried to appeal, but the caseworker handling her file was reassigned, and the digital documents? Corrupted. Next, a whistleblower from a military AI lab. He leaked internal memos about consciousness mapping. Within 72 hours, his bank accounts were frozen, his social security number flagged for fraud, and every photo of him on the internet was replaced with a different face. He was made a ghost, I whispered. Jesus nodded. They call it non-lethal containment. Not death. Just deletion. It was part of Phase Omega. The plan was simple, remove those who resist, but without turning them into martyrs. Make it quiet. Make it invisible. I saw code words, shepherd flags, identifiers used to track voices of influence. Pastors. Teachers. Musicians. Parents. Anyone whose voice could sway a crowd. I watched an algorithm scan sermon transcripts, Spotify lyrics, even whispered prayers caught on smart devices. Every voice was scored for emotional deviance. Those who passed the threshold were tagged. They don't just want silence, Jesus said. They want consent through exhaustion. One by one, I saw people surrender. Some without even realizing it. Their memories altered just enough to doubt themselves. Their search results changed. Their location history scrambled. They began to question if they ever really said what they remembered saying. And then I saw it, my wife. Jennifer. Sitting on our porch, holding a letter from the Department of Defense. It claimed my death had been misreported. That I'd never died in Iran. That I'd been discharged for instability and dishonor. The date on the letter, 1 week from now. They're not just rewriting you in the past, Jesus said. They're preparing to erase you from the future. Then everything around us darkened except one thing, a doorway of blinding light. And it was closing fast. The light narrowed into a single point, then split open like a crack in the universe. Jesus turned to me one last time. His eyes held a sadness I didn't understand. You have seen what most never will, he said. But now, you must choose. Step through that door, or remain with me. My heart shattered. I wanted to stay. But then I saw them, Jennifer, holding Grace and Emma in her arms. My girls. They weren't looking at me, but calling to me. I heard my name in their prayers, felt it in their tears. That's when Jesus placed his hand on my chest. This pain you carry, it becomes power when surrendered in love. Suddenly, I was falling. Not like a dream, but like diving into cold, electric water. My body burned. My lungs seized. I woke up screaming in a hospital bed. A nurse dropped her chart. A doctor shouted, "He's back. He's breathing." I had been dead for 14 minutes. But I had never been more alive. They told me I survived a miracle. But this wasn't survival, it was a mission. The world isn't sleepwalking toward destruction. It's racing. Not because evil is stronger, but because good is quieter. Prayer isn't weak. Truth isn't optional. And silence is no longer safe. I've seen what happens when voices vanish, when memory becomes data, and souls become simulations. So here's what I know now. You are not powerless. Your voice still matters. Your prayers still shake foundations. But you have to use them. Refuse the lie that says you're just one person. I saw light overcome darkness, and it began with one person praying. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Stand. Speak. Love like the world depends on it, because it does. Time is short. But hope is eternal. Choose light. Choose truth. Choose now.